Yo, what's up, guys, and welcome back to episode 5 of The Lock. First and foremost, if you're not following us on anchor.fm/The Lock, I really do encourage you to do so. The podcast goes up Thursdays as opposed to Sundays, 4 p.m. Eastern, but it goes up every week. And you can also see us on iTunes via that link, as well as other streaming platforms. Also, if you guys would like to follow us on Discord, that link is down below as well. Find us rather on Discord to join our community. That makes more sense. And of course, today, our guest will be introducing himself, my friend Grant.
All right, what's going on? My name's Grant, or highvelocityboy. I've been doing graphic design in this community for about 2 years now, and I've probably been in this man's sweatshop for about a year and a half, probably. So don't got much to say there. So I've just been doing a lot of graphic design here for a while, and paying with textbooks, so everything's going all right.
I think sweatshop is a really, really, really poor term for that, because I definitely pay you. Okay, maybe the first thumbnail where you charged me $5 could be equated to like that type of work.
Yeah, I mean, debatable.
Of course it's debatable.
All jokes aside, like, I've been working for Joey for a while. He's a great guy to work with. He only yells at me sometimes, so everything's going good.
The only time I yell at Grant is when I want him to get me a thumbnambnail done immediately.
On Fridays, and it's like the next day due, and I'm like, all right, but yeah, no, that's pretty much all I gotta say so far for the introduction. So
how long have you been doing graphic work? Did you go to school for it, or was this just something you picked up on the side? Was this like a passion for you?
Honestly, like, I started doing, I guess, graphic design for myself like a few years ago, like before I even started doing it for anyone else. Like, back when I had my own YouTube channel, I'd like make my own banners, thumbnails, all that stuff, because I wasn't trying to pay money for anything like that. And then I think when college hit and I realized, oh shoot, textbooks are really expensive, I actually just kind of picked it up as a trade and started like offering it to friends. And then I kind of like word passed along, and I started doing it kind of not semi-professionally. Like, I never really took a graphic design class, but yeah, no, I just kind of just picked up everything over time.
So it's more like a self-taught type thing, maybe seeing YouTube videos, reading guides type of thing, learning Photoshop and all of that.
Pretty much. Like, all like the tutorial channels like have been watched at least 5 times each, not gonna lie. So that's pretty much how that happened.
That's pretty awesome. And there's obviously been this difference between when you started and now as well. Like, me personally, I see the difference as well, because I've been working with you for so long. So it's awesome to see that this is a self-taught thing that you were able to polish and become the really expensive graphics that it is now. Really happy about that.
Yeah, I don't remember what the first thing I did for you was, or like when. I know it's like a year and a half-ish ago, but
it was a Drake thumbnail, how to be Thunder Blender 7.
Oh, that's what it. Oh my! I think I still have the thumbnail somewhere on my computer too, in the wheelchair Jimmy PNG. But we don't got it.
Joey and I were actually recently taking a look at the decline of Moat's thumbnails ever since he stopped using your.
Dude, I haven't checked on Moat's channel in like months, man. I don't even know what it's at right now.
We scrolled through. It's a little rough. It's.
I'll hit him up after. Oh man, that's funny.
So obviously, as a graphics artist, you've had certain experiences, right? I feel like anybody in any trade has, good and bad experiences. And the main reason we wanted to do this podcast is for the topic paid in exposure, because I feel like, especially graphics artists specifically, or any artist, I always see plastered all over my Twitter, hey, I love your artwork. And like the DMs, right? Like, hey, I love your artwork. It's like, oh, hey, thank you so much. I would love to get something done. I was like, oh, okay. My commission cost is $45.50 for high things. I was like, oh, I would like it for free.
How much is that in exposure units? The conversion rate of dollar to exposure.
It's pretty high right now. No, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I see that all over my Twitter too, because I follow a lot more artists as well. So it's like it's pretty much a daily occurrence, like with how often I see it. So I definitely know what you're talking about. But there's only been one time where I personally have had to deal with that, and that's a time I never want to forget, because oh boy.
So I feel like we'll get into that in
Yeah,
a second.
I'm foreshadowing here. I'm
Yeah,
foreshadowing.
yeah.
But
We'll definitely get into that in a second because I think that's the big one that a lot of people who know of you want to hear about as well. But so so when these people come at these people, like I think a lot of the times there are younger kids that are more, at least the ones that I see on my Twitter. I feel like a lot of times there are younger kids who are like, oh, I want to see, I love your artwork. I would love something like that. It's like, oh, I have like 50 YouTube subscribers. I'll put you on my channel and it'll get you other people. But then like, if I look back and think about it myself personally, I'm like, well, if you found this person from somebody else's subscription and you don't want to pay them, and then you're saying, oh, we'll get you exposure and followers for other people, what's going to make them want to pay as well? Like, what's the type of difference? Like, I feel like you definitely have to, put your foot down. I laugh whenever I see it because it's just crazy the experiences that these artists go through. But you said personally you haven't really gone through it except for that one time. Like you've never.
yeah, that's mind blowing. Yeah. So is it time to talk about it? Is this the time? Because this is a big topic here.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's talk about your
Go ahead.
experience.
I know you're.
All right. Okay, everybody gather around the campfire. It's time for a great story. So let's take a look on the, I think it was like early March or something like that. This one guy hit me up. He was with the GBA, right? Like the big draft league, account. He was like, hey, we were looking for a full rebrand. We were looking to get a hold of you to some work. And I'm like, all right, sounds good. Started talking a little bit. He listed me all the items he was wanting. It was like 15, like 20 total, like thumbnails, layouts, packages or whatever. I was like, okay, that seems like fine. It's gonna be a pretty hefty price, right? Because if you're asking for like 15 to 20 things, like it's gonna like total like 400, 500 range. Like imagine like 15 road to top 10s. Like
Yeah,
pretty much. Exactly. I'm saying that for the viewers out there at home. So after I said that, he was like, okay, I'm looking over the prices. It seems a little like hefty. And I'm like, all right, that's understandable. I can see why he'd be a little bit overwhelmed. I was asking him like, okay, we can like kind of cut some corners here. We can try to cut some prices. He said, actually, I'm gonna go talk to a buddy of mine. We're gonna get back to you and see if we can get something worked out. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Sounds like we're making some progress here, right? Like everything sounds like it's going according to plan. About, let's say like an hour later, I get added to a group DM with him and some other guy. And the other guy, he isn't as what you would say civil as the initial person I talked to in the GBA.
Okay.
And so basically, let me just pull up the screenshot here so I'm not like talking out of anything.
He went and got Uncle Vinny.
Yeah, he tried to. Exactly. He brought home his negotiation tool. He tried to ask for the $500 valuation. He tried to get it cut down to $90 for all the same items. Every single thing, $90 total.
And just to reiterate, for those that might not know what the GBA is, it's the Global Battle Association. It's a Pokemon league. And basically what Grant would have been doing is the thumbnails for it, the slides as well, if I'm not mistaken, for the actual Pokemon drafted. So the thumbnails for 15 different people, the slides as well, the templates for all that as well, and even potential battle layouts as well. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, like some like draft setup or something like that, like stream layouts, like pretty much everything you can possibly think of is what they were asking for $90. So
$90.
That's a huge, like, is devaluation a word? I feel like it is.
It's not devaluation. I think it sounds like it sounds smart. So I mean, you can't really compare.
So many syllables. No one's gonna dare look it up.
Yeah, one of their reasons for saying that my prices, like the initial one, was unreasonable, was because that they couldn't afford it because their YouTube revenue was low. Like that's literally what they said. They're like, "Oh, our YouTube's not doing so well, so I can't believe you would ask this."
Yeah.
I'm like,
my prices aren't really dependent on the client's income.
Exactly. Oh no. So pretty much like the conversation went. I don't know if you're gonna want to put this up here, like when it actually drops, but you
can pass it to us as well.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna do that afterwards so everyone can see it. But like, I pretty much just like double checked and asked. I was like, all right, so this is what you're trying to say? $90 total for like this many items, and pretty much just try to explain like as a last ditch effort of why it's that expensive is because so many things are being made that require completely different like assets to get like produced. And then after I explained all of that, the guy responds, he's like, "Have you watched any of the GBA content before?" Like that's like his first question that he asked. And
Okay.
like he continues to pretty much like haggle me. He's like, I'm not discrediting your work, but we also can't afford that, and we're not catering to that high of a price per graphic. And then here's the kicker. And the last thing he says, it's just unreasonable based on our history with the GFX artists we've produced, with who have been more than accepting of the exposure and price and have provided quality stuff. We're not asking you to hand paint the Mona Lisa per graphic, just provide base templates that we can adjust weekly. So, and there it is, the 4 exposure in its prime.
I think people have a like the majority of people, honestly, like the layperson doesn't understand the work that it actually that goes into creating graphics. So they have like some like they look at the prices and they're like, I wouldn't pay that much for that, but then you realize that it's also a source of income and you're paying it one time to reuse graphics. I mean, like,
yeah, and the GBA since it's going to be for 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months to use these graphics,
if not
like,
more so.
It's a one-time payment for something that's going to give you repeated, like, income,
like use. Yes, exactly,
Like
exactly.
extended time. Yeah, exactly.
I also feel like that's a big thing as well, like going on what Key just touched on, because I feel like they feel like because it takes like 5 seconds for them to use something in Photoshop, that means it must have taken you 5 seconds to make it
5
yourself,
extra.
right? Exactly. Because if you think about it, if you look at minimum wage, for example, I believe minimum wage is $11 right now, and
something like that.
It's like something like that, right? So if one template took you an hour to make, you should, in comparison to at least minimum wage, make $11 off of it, right?
Exactly.
So now if you're making 15 different ones, right? And also if you already have a set price as well, I feel like the difference also is you haven't worked with the GBA, right?
No, this is the first time I've ever gotten into contact with them. It's just completely out of the blue.
Exactly. No, you've worked with me a lot, right? So I think if I had an issue with something, we'd either be able to talk it out in installments, or either do the price, or I pay you this amount now, this amount later. And I feel like that'd be fine because we have this connection together, all right?
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. But the GBA saying, when they said, have you seen or watched our videos? I feel like that was more like, do you know who we are?
Yeah,
that was like a slap of face.
Like the rich guy like the rich, the businessman's son. Do you have any idea who I am? Slams his fist down on the table and demands better.
On the desk, opens the
My
briefcase.
father owns 7 of these yachts.
Oh my god. No, that's totally how I felt. Like I was just kind of taken aback for the first 5 minutes. I'm like, is this serious? Is this real right now?
Like, yeah, those nice views on YouTube are gonna pay my bills.
I love exposure from the dying GBA. So wonderful and great.
Whoa! I'm in the GBA. Hold up!
You can mute that out. You can mute that out. You can just
no. This is
going
with
the raw audio files, bro.
No, behind every like kind interaction.
We're actually gonna raise the volume. We're gonna raise the volume on that.
I'm gonna put in air horns.
Fantastic.
Shots fired. I'm gonna put some sunglasses on you.
Yeah, the thing is, I actually used to watch the GBA like 3 years ago. Like, and I don't remember. Like, I watched some of their videos like recently just to get an idea for what the guy was like asking for. Obviously, before the other dude came in, and I was like, it doesn't feel the same as it used to, and I felt like something was a little bit off for some reason. But I don't know.
Do you feel that? I mean, that was definitely like. I feel like they definitely, when they said we're not to devalue your work, I feel like they're saying we're devaluing your work.
I'm not going to call you a piece of shit, but I'm just going to continue to go on. But no, it was just crazy because I wonder like why they're trying to use like, oh, like our revenue's a little bit low, like we're not doing so well, so therefore you need to charge us severely under minimum wage, like. So I don't know if that that's why I was like, I wasn't trying to throw a dig entirely at the channel, but I was like, is the channel itself not doing so well? Like, is that why, like, for example, that they were trying to charge so low in the first place to even say that? So that's kind of what my question was, but who knows?
Yeah, I feel like that also goes against what they were saying going forward. If the channel is not doing so well, and then they offer you exposure as a payment,
yeah,
like how do those two how do those two go together?
Yeah.
Right?
I
Exactly.
think there's
Like, I'm not
definitely a
trying to like.
correlation between how well your channel's doing and how willing you are to pay the people that are gonna make your quality better.
Yeah, make your
Oh
quality better.
boy.
That's definitely a huge thing. Like, well, maybe if you paid Grant this, he
Yeah.
would actually the
I
quality
mean,
would go up.
the
and
first
channel
thing I
would do
look
better.
at
I-
whenever
Yeah.
like I see like a new YouTuber or something, like a new YouTube video, if the thumbnail doesn't look nice, if it's not right, I'm not clicking the video. That's all there is to
No,
it.
exactly.
The first impression
That's
matters so much off the bat.
Yeah,
It's true.
whether it's like people or like artwork, even exactly. So
Yeah. No, it's definitely true. And like I don't want to be wrong on what I'm about to say, but I feel like the way the GBA did some things in the past as well was they wouldn't pay out front. They would pay
Mhm.
how based on the channel is going. So like if someone did graphics for X amount of time, they pay them at the end of the month depending on how well the GBA channel did, right? I believe that's how
Yeah.
they did. So it's
I have a friend of mine actually. He did like a ton of work for the GBA. Like
are we
my
gonna
boy
name
Bill
drop?
Standish.
Are we gonna
Yeah,
name?
my boy Bill Standish,
Okay.
like great graphic designer, great guy. They still owe him $300.
Damn.
Can you go over that story? Why do they owe him 300?
I don't know exactly, but I'm in my graphic design server with a lot of other people, like people who do work in the community.
Yeah.
And he was telling me the story because we have a blacklisted client
Oh,
section
you
that's
guys
like
have
locked off like
unionized.
any other.
Oh,
Oh no, we had a labor union, and apparently the GBA like for several years like he's done work for them, and they still owe him a pretty large amount of money, and we've been trying to get justice for him for a while now. So it's
the
crazy
way,
though.
yeah. So the way he worked was he would do the graphics and they pay him based on how much the channel is
Exactly.
making, right? But if
Yeah.
if they're saying the GBA channel isn't doing so hot right now, which I mean makes sense considering it's off season and nothing's being uploaded there. You don't
Mhm.
make money when you don't do anything.
Exactly.
It's interesting that they made the other approach to you to pay you straight up for an entire season's worth of graphics.
Exactly.
Whereas in turn, like like you see what I'm saying? Like it's like they're backtracking what they were doing before, right?
Mhm.
They obviously wanted to pay Bill more, but were unable to. And I know there's a whole lot of drama there too with how he got kicked out. I don't know the whole. I don't know everything, and I don't want to go on that too much. But
No, me neither. That's like why a pricing system for any graphic designers out there. If you don't know someone like entirely like that well, like don't like wait till the very very last second to ask for a payment because it's like obviously there's a lot of great people out there, but for the most part, if you don't like know someone enough to trust them, you never know what someone's gonna do the moment you like send them the PSD file and they're like, all right, they just block you or something.
Yeah, honestly,
It's crazy.
if it's my livelihood, I'm not above writing up contracts even for people I know. Like, look, dude, if you have
Yeah.
no intention of screwing me over, then you'll have no problem with signing this contract.
Exactly.
no,
No, that's how I feel too. Like I remember when I first started working with Joey, like the most I would do is like do like a 50-50 payment where it's like half up front then half on completion if the project's like big enough or like enough like payment to be warranted for that. But now it's just like the business transactions are just so casual. Like, I'm just like,
I'll
the
even
very
tell
end.
Grant, yeah, like I'll even tell you, like, hey, I get paid in like 6 days. Can you send me this graphic today, and I'll pay you back the day I get paid? And that's happened a few times. And I've always paid Grant, always, because not only have we built this relationship, like as a friend, he's also a business. Like I value him as part of my business, right? I know that
Exactly.
my stuff isn't going to do as well if I don't have someone actually providing graphics for me, right? That's just how it is. Exactly what Keith was saying before. Nobody's gonna click on a video that doesn't have good graphics. That's it. I mean, like, okay, I mean, maybe if like the title is ridiculous, but
Or like gibberish, exactly.
yeah. So
The quality of your
it's just crazy
videos
that
is
people-
directly reflected by how much you're willing to invest. Like if your mic quality is terrible because you didn't think to actually buy something decent for what you're trying to make money off of, if you didn't invest in good graphics, and if you didn't like buy the full version of your editing software so you have a big fucking
yeah
logo in the bottom
Yeah,
corner,
Bandicam.
like yeah, okay, your shit looks terrible because you didn't care enough to invest anything into it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that comes down to who it is as well. Like, there's definitely people who are I feel like when you get to a certain point, when you get big enough, something it won't always matter. For example, you know the guy Leafy is here, that dude who used to do meme
Oh
videos.
yeah, the
So
lizard man.
his thumbnails were not anything impressive at all, but because he was a meme, that's what people expected out of him, right? But like for people fighting for YouTube is literally a system, at least for us, for content creators, YouTube is literally a system where I want you to view my videos. I want you to keep watching. I want you to get that longer watch time. I want you to
Yeah.
click on this. And graphics play such a huge role. Graphics play such a huge role in that.
No, it's like YouTube by nature, I feel, is like just incredibly competitive, like now more than ever, because like there's just so many people vying for that top spot, you know,
Yeah.
especially like whether it's a community or like a general sense too, obviously. So it's like any sort of like small factor I noticed like tends to make like a huge difference. I noticed that like when I was doing YouTube myself. So I was able to kind of take that idea and translate that over into my graphic design when I started doing work for people. So I totally get that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you don't like it yourself, why should my client like it? Type
Exactly.
thing. And I'll tell you, like if you give me something and I'm not the biggest fan, I'll draw like a crappy photo and be like, hey, can you make it look like this, but like better?
Exactly. Yes. No,
This is my
totally.
vision. This is my vision. Can you make it look good?
I feel like
It is a
that's
shame.
how I'm always describing things to Julie.
Yes,
I'll give
yes.
him like some really terrible mock up and be like, make this look better. That's that's what I want you to
And
tell.
all I do is copy paste it and say, make this look better. Great. That's all I do.
That's exactly it. No, that's totally fine with me too, because it's like pretty easy enough to understand to actually like make something beautiful out of it eventually. So
Have you? I want to go back to the paid and exposure, but just because we're on this topic, I think we're going to go back to it in a second. Like I'm not trying to skip, but have you ever had clients that? Because I'm curious, that it was just impossible. They didn't like what you made, and it was just impossible to work with, type of thing. And then like they ended up getting upset, and you ended up having to do something completely different. So basically, your hours were like wasted in a sense.
probably like when I first started working on stuff, like maybe 3 years ago when I wasn't even doing things like for payment, like I was just doing things for friends, and
Yeah.
it would kind of happen that way. Like that was one thing. But when I was doing things like professionally in the last 2 years, I've actually never really had like a bad like outcome out of something like that. Like yeah, there's been people who have been like, all right, I don't really like think this is kind of working for the style, or like I don't really see this is like going too well, like the right direction. And usually those conversations have actually been pretty civil, where it's like I'd be like, all right, no problem, and they would usually send like I don't know like $10 or something for how much time like I had spent initially, and then usually just kind of be on our way. And it's actually like some of the more pleasant times actually,
Yeah,
which is really surprising because you would think a lot of them would end uglier than you think, but a lot of people are actually just genuinely good people. So if you talk to them like calmly when that situation happens, 9 times out of 10 like they'll respond like a human being as well, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You never have someone like give you some vague description and then you come back to them and they're like, this isn't what I wanted at all. I want you to make it pop.
Oh no, I've had that before. I've definitely had that happen before. Like, but like I said, when it comes to actually ending the transaction, like they usually turn out to be pretty nice people, even if they don't really know how to say what they want initially. Like they're usually pretty understanding when it comes to being like, all right, I don't think this is really going the right direction. So as much as I wish I could say I had more of those horror stories, like a lot of them have been pretty pleasant actually.
I mean, that's completely fine. We didn't bring you on here because we wanted to see how you were dragged through the mud.
Twilight Zone. No, totally. But it's just kind of like a lesson for any graphic designers out there is like you don't really want to respond emotionally to things like that, because then that's when it actually could turn into a horror story, which is never a good thing. So
I do think that if that situation does occur and they refuse to pay you at all, this is where obviously taking a portion beforehand just for the work is worth it,
Exactly.
because at the end of the day, if you did spend hours on something and they just don't like it, you still worked. So you still deserve to be paid, and still, like, obviously you got to get the final product out. And Key might disagree with me on this, but I guess it's like to a wider extent, it might be wrong, because like if I was hired to build a bridge and I built a ceiling, like obviously that type of thing I
that's
don't
one
deserve to
thing.
be it. But as opposed to like, like, you know,
That's an extreme example, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know examples like that will pop up. But in terms of art, and especially this being, you know, a sort of this helps you pay through college. it's like that sort of thing. I definitely think you do deserve to be paid in some type of compensation, even if it's like
Exactly.
even if it's just 50%, right? It's like because of the work you have to put in, even if they end up liking it, that's just you got to know your what you're worth. But
Mm.
so I think Key wanted to touch on this topic, but paid in exposure usually has some negative connotations when it comes to I feel like
Right.
our different communities, but you said you want to talk
Yeah.
about how it
Do you
definitely
think
has
there are
benefits, right?
ever like times when there's some merit to being paid in exposure, where like it's not just someone trying to get work for free? There's like a genuine audience that they can expose you to, and make it
Uh,
worth the replacement for the payment.
I think the only times where I feel like that would be like a genuine like thing to consider is if they're like in the millions and they're like actively like putting it out in the say like I did something for PewDiePie, like a fan art or something, like a fan banner, and he like shouted it out. Yeah, I would say that's pretty much like worth it in that
Right.
situation, you know, because it's like the return that you would get is significantly greater than the effort you would put into
Have
it.
you,
But say, for example, with the GBA, where they're
right,
not doing so
right.
hot, and therefore they wouldn't really have much to expose in the first place, the return of value wouldn't be able to exceed the amount like that I would get just from getting plain old money. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm sure there's a threshold in an extreme example. Say like I don't know, like Tyler One or something, like decided to
Right.
shout me out on the stream every single day for a banner. That's one thing. However, I feel like when it comes to this community, there's like not too many situations I can think of where like that would really apply. It just really depends on the scope, I guess. So
Well, let me question that right there. When you said when it comes to this community, are you talking about the competitive Pokemon community, the Let's Play community, the top tens community, or the ones that are simply interested in how good was this Pokemon after fall swipe gaming type
I
thing? Shout
I
out to
think
my
there's
boy.
no mega stars in the community, like the Pokemon community. There's no one that big
Yes,
that can.
no, I don't think so either.
I agree completely with that. However, I do think there are sides of the community that you can be exposed to that you're not necessarily known in. Like for instance, Grant, you've been doing stuff for me, right? Who does competitive Pokemon?
Of
Obviously,
course.
down below you got your Twitter on some of the stuff as well that we've done too. So I'm sure there have been people who have actually came to you at a point. But if you did it for someone like let's say Shady is more so LP than the
LP variety,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. His target audience is different than my target audience. Like my target audience is people who play Pokemon. His target audience is people who play Pokemon, people who enjoy watching people play Pokemon. But they're for the most part, I think, separate people. There obviously is some in between. Do you think there would be some merit if you did something like that? I'm not saying that he just said, "Hey, I'm not going to pay you, but I want you to do this work for me." I'm not saying that. I'm saying
No. There definitely be an element of like getting a new audience or something. I agree with that much. Obviously, working for free is kind of like a no at this point when I'm doing graphic design as far in my career. But I can definitely see like merit in like having to like say like pick one project over the other. Say like somebody with like 100 subs and say I don't know like Shady hit me up or something. It'd be kind of like hard to like be kind about that decision. You know what I mean? Though it's just like it's all about that return on value. And I feel like if I ever did get that opportunity, it'd definitely like make a big impact. I feel
Right.
so.
yeah.
I definitely see what you're talking about. Though there's definitely those influencers, and going from one circle to the other can make like a huge
I
difference. I suppose.
wonder. I wonder, is there anyone that has tried to quantify exposure in a dollar value and like write that up in a contract? Like, if someone could guarantee you, like, let's say they guarantee you 5,000 followers or something, and then if they fail to meet that benchmark, then they pay the difference in cash. Like, let's say your price. Let's say your price is $1,000, right? They're like, I can pay you instead with 5,000 followers. You get like 2,500 followers. Do they get like a half off deal? Is that something that anyone?
I don't know about that. I haven't thought this much about something like that because like I don't really think of exposure in general as like a possible currency for me, especially because that's like the circle that I work in, where I don't think I could get 5,000 followers off like a single like video or something.
Yeah,
like that.
these numbers
So
are completely out my ass.
Like, yeah,
To be sure.
I don't know, man. Like, it's really like a weird topic for me, just because like I don't really know like what I would do if they're like, oh, I could guarantee you 10K followers that would be like active and stuff. That'd be
Hey,
like,
write that down in
I don't know
contract,
what-
and we'll
I
see
feel
if that's
like-
something.
Yeah, I honestly feel like that like would be kind of worth it, right? Imagine even 2,500, right? If they're all active, that's 2,500 retweets, 2,500
that's-
likes, and that hits everywhere, right? That hits everywhere, right? If like things like that are, and like again, like as a content creator, I'll obviously collab with people, and we don't always pay each other. For the most part, we do it because we're friends, we care about each other, and it's a mutual benefit, right? If I'm on
Exactly.
somebody else's channel, I'm hitting a new audience, or they're on my channel, they're hitting a new audience, and obviously there's a whole friendship type
And
of
you're
thing.
bringing something to the table on both sides, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But then
That's interesting though. It's like I've never thought about this before, because it's like you're basically being paid in like, I guess like almost like seeds to grow it yourself, if that makes
Right.
sense. Like hey, here's all these crops, all right, grow them yourself now. And it's like, if it got to that extreme, I don't know what I would do, because that's just such an interesting thought.
yeah, because I feel like, especially with Twitter, all I see about art when people complain is the same thing. Hey, I want you to do this for free. Hey, I want you to do this. And again, like generally the person is someone of little value is a super harsh term, so I'm not going to say that. But someone who does it, that's a
We
super
can just
harsh
name
term.
drop. It's
That's,
okay.
no, that's the meaning, and I would never say that. But they are somebody who doesn't have the highest following, somebody who doesn't. And first off, I don't consider myself of high value at all. I mean, I care about myself, but we're not going to go into that
I'm
conversation.
very low.
No.
I want to preface this
Don't
by saying I have
undersell
very low
yourself. Come on
self-esteem.
now. Welcome to the stream, by the way. Oh my god.
No, but like it's in a sense that like when it comes to that, right? But then you gave the example of PewDiePie. That's probably the highest person you can reach when it comes to YouTube, right? That is the highest person outside of like
Yeah,
T-Series.
yeah,
but that's
T-Series.
whatever.
We don't.
If I'm making
talk
some
about
some
T-Series.
graphics for T-Series, bro, better believe I'm getting those dollars.
That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
yes.
T-Series
No,
would pay you an exposure. Let's just get that straight.
Let's just- oh man.
But the again, like when it comes to that part, I feel like it'd be super beneficial, right? Obviously, and I feel like a lot, like I said, with my initial point, that a lot of artists are they always, they shut it off, and it's bound to get retweets. It gets you more support on your type of art as well, because obviously, if a tweet like that goes viral among artists, because artists will support artists when it comes to that. I think artists will support artists when it comes to things that artists don't want happening to them. I said artists a lot, but I feel like I'm making sense of what I'm saying.
No, I still follow.
Exactly. And in turn, that exposure ends up helping them, right? That tweet was like, oh, okay, let me see how cool your art is. This boy wanted it for free. Let me see it. Wait, your art is kind of cool. Let me hit you with that follow. There you got a new follow. So I do think that while exposure is sometimes seen negatively, especially with that, there are it's not even very few, but there are quite a number of circumstances where it is worth it.
It could be beneficial. Like
Exactly.
I can definitely understand that.
I feel like the problem with that is that if you're asking someone to get paid an exposure, your following is basically just somewhat of a representation of yourself. So you're not going to be able to monetize that even with other people that follow you, because those people that follow you also will not be willing to pay you, even if like you advertise it to them.
Yeah, I guess it does kind of set a precedent for your value. If they're like, oh, well, that guy paid you an exposure, I'll do the same. Why should I pay?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, I don't see, if I was ever to like undertake one of those like shady exposure deals at this point, I would definitely make sure that transaction took place under the rug, to where it's like my value as a graphic designer wouldn't be impeded like with that knowledge of it, Like, it's just such a weird like idea to go behind, because like I don't know, man. Like it's hard to like make that call.
Yeah.
Like it just ultimately depends on like the following and like the value that, I guess, in this hypothetical, the account would bring to the table. Because if it's like 100K versus 10K, obviously that's going to affect like the amount of value that they can offer in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Man,
The amount of people.
whoever the scammer was that came up with the paying people an exposure originally, they've started something that they can never take back. like they've perpetuated like a myth now that like emerging artists are now just getting lured into doing work for free. because
Yeah,
that
and
suggestion that it'll lead to exposure, future sales.
Yeah.
I guess the problem there with that is obviously we've kind of talked about like what our perceptions of what would be like valuable in this case and getting paid for exposure. But the problem that that brings is that there's a lot of probably like smaller or newer artists who don't have that type of scope or perception. So in their eyes, what we think might be valuable, like 100K, like to get paid for exposure, they might think like, oh, 1K would be like profitable in exposure. You know what I mean,
Right.
though? So
That's
I feel
true.
like a
And
lot of
yeah,
artists like would fall into that trap, thinking like, oh wow, they got 1,000 followers. That's a whole lot, you know.
especially when you're
But to us,
young
it's
and
really
impressionable.
and
Yeah.
starting out just like cracked Photoshop, you know, or
Yeah.
downloaded it legally. My bad.
I mean,
no,
you could also make the comparison to college and professional sports. People in college are unable to be able to support themselves. They can't get paid for their autograph or their jersey sales. But when you go professional, you can. So a lot of people like to forego their first year and just go into the NBA or whatever to actually get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. It's a jump, and I mean that's worth it too. That's the money there is going to be big versus what's actually happening. But like again, starting as a kid, I do think there's a huge difference between obviously fan art and being commissioned for something.
Exactly. Like it's a
If you
huge
yeah
step.
yeah if you have commissions and your commissions have rates, right? You should whoever is going in and DMing you or whatever or commissioning you should 100% know they have to pay. That's it. But if I like Key's content, right, and I happen to be an amazing artist, which I am, I'm a fantastic
No,
artist.
I've seen the things you've drawn for me. I can agree to that.
All right, turn off your sarcasm, man. Thank you.
Let's throw something up on the screen real quick.
Just cover it up.
So if I happen to be this artist and I love the content that Key is creating, I'm going to do fan art is just that. It's fan art, right? It is
Mhm.
art because I am a fan and your content moved me in such a way that I wanted to make something for you as a way of giving back as well, right? And in turn, if you actually end up putting that up on your screen, and let's say the video gets millions of views and people are like, wow, that artist is great, right? That's a turn of being paid in exposure without even the deal ending up happening, like, right? That just ended up
Yeah.
happening because I was generous. But when you have commission and commissions open and you have flat rates and you have this portfolio and you have everything, I think it is very, I think it's almost, it kind of devalues you, what you do. And again, I think this also has to do with how big or who you're working with and what community you're hitting and things like that. Again, like if PewDiePie came at you, first off, you should demand money if PewDiePie came at you because he has money. But
Oh yeah, no, totally.
that's it. But if he was saying, "Hey, I'm not going to give you your price. I'm going to give you a little bit lower, but I'm going to put you on 5-6 videos and shout out your stuff," that type of deal might actually be worth it.
Well, yeah, in the long run, you got to think about it. Like
Exactly.
that's a lot of it's value. Like value doesn't always mean like money immediately. You know, like that's
Yeah.
potential like revenue in the future as well.
And the big thing is as well, your commission prices stay the same. You can't be like Mr. Krabs in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and King Neptune is coming to my door, so my Krabby Patty is going to be $299 instead of $299, right?
Exactly.
You can't do that. You can't do
Brother, that reference just
Uh,
fell through the cracks for some of the audience. I don't.
Someone might be a little too young for that, unfortunately, but that's okay. Oh man.
But you can't be like that, right? Your prices
No,
won't.
yeah, exactly.
If PewDiePie did come to you and you say your thumbnail is $45, PewDiePie is going to give you $45.
I just realized
right?
PewDiePie is King Neptune in your.
Yes.
Oh no.
In this scenario, yes. But in that turn, if he said, "Hey, instead of giving you $45, I'm going to give you $20 and shout you out in 3 videos," I feel like that's worth it, right?
Because what's the loss here? $25 compared to what? How much? Like
Compared to being
potential?
in front of millions and millions of viewers, type of
and
thing.
like 1% of that would be like a decent number of thousand like
Yes.
potential followers. Like
Yeah,
yeah, like the
yes.
return on investment, like definitely in like an extreme example like that, like that's hard to say no to. Like I wouldn't blame that at all. Like Jesus.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just like, again, it just really determines on how you value. Because I think flat rates are great. I do, because they obviously mean you get paid. But I do think also sometimes it's good to be flexible based on what you'll get out of it, the return, right?
Mhm. I think if that type of conversation ever did happen between me and a client, there definitely had to be like a sense of like etiquette, like geared towards it. You know, like that definitely like wouldn't be like the initial thing that the client brings up, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pay you in some exposure." You know, I feel like there definitely need to be like a certain degree of like
Yes. No,
like
for sure.
handling it properly too.
You can't just get a DM that says, "Hey, Grant, how are you?" And you'd be like, "Hey, I'm fine." It's like, I want to pay half what you're worth, and then
Exactly.
and then they wait for you to reply before they say. I definitely like it would definitely be something like, "Hey, listen, instead of paying your full amount, I would like to offer you. I shout you out for 30 seconds in the beginning of these next 3 videos on these videos that are proven by my analytics and by just looking at my channel will hit the most viewers." And I want to work out a deal where I help you grow, but you help me by, allowing the price to be less. I feel like that would be a
Yeah,
more,
exactly. Like there's like it definitely like something like that would need like that level of professionalism in it. Like because otherwise, like say if it's a smaller YouTuber like trying to like pull something like that, then you can just shut that down immediately. Be like, all right, I don't think we can do that. You know, like there's a way to get out of it too. Like at least then the artist wouldn't feel like they're getting trapped in like some exposure bear trap, basically.
yeah. Because at the end of the day, if I commission something from you and you give it to me and I pay you the price, it's mine. I do not have to link you into my description. I do not have to shout you out. I don't even have to let people know who you are.
Of
Right?
course, no,
I mean,
totally.
like in a good world, I would, right?
Mhm.
But I'm just saying, like that's the type of thing. Like, and if you
You
put
own the product, yeah.
exactly, and if you put a watermark on my thing, I can take it off if I want to because it's my
Oh, of
product.
course you can, but I'm
Exactly.
still gonna put it on there. You know? No, exactly. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like you're not have to do any of that. Like it's not set in blood, but obviously like that's just a level of mutual respect or whatever. And I think like that would have to carry in that transaction as well if that ever happened with me and like I don't know, like PewDiePie or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
love how we keep using him as an example because I feel like he is the one that people will recognize the most out of it.
Yeah.
But because that's like probably like a highest one. But like speaking of like paying for how do you determine what the value of your work? How do you determine how much it costs? Like how did you change? Like what happened that made you do that?
For me, usually I kind of go like off of like you said with the whole minimum wage being like 11. Like that was initially like what my base price was, but obviously over time, like as I would like, I guess it kind of scales with demand as well. Say like I got like 10 people who are all wanting like tons of things at once. So I'm like, all right, I kind of want to up my pricing a little bit because obviously no human being can take that many commissions at once.
Yeah.
So it's all about like the supply and demand as well too. So I kind of gauged mine around is what like your lock podcast, like it took around me like 8 hours and I charged like I think 100 total for it. So that kind of gives you an idea for like if I have to reuse assets, like say like a background, that's gonna cut some pricing off because I'm not gonna like charge you as if like I'm making 2 completely different backgrounds.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I'll kind of go off of like my own like self perception of my worth, like the amount of demand at the time, and like off that base like 11 per hour. And then I'll actually go back and scale it around and be like, okay, I'm going to be using the same background multiple times. Everything's going to be good. Like I can cut like, I don't know, like 30 or something off, for example, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I always try my best to be like fair when it comes to valuing my prices based on how much work I need to put in and how much work I can save. And I kind of just base the dollar sign off that.
Yeah. When you say 8 hours straight, like 8 hours of work, now I'm not saying obviously 8 hours straight, but let's say the value of that hour. Are you actually working for that full hour or is like 30 minutes, thinking of a design, drinking a Red Bull, going to eat a sandwich while looking at your computer and messing around? Like this isn't me like picking on you at all.
No,
I wanted to know.
exactly.
I wanted to
The
know.
process.
Like, are you working or like, are you working like in Forever 21 where you're checking your phone every 5 seconds and picking
No,
up?
I based that off of like pretty much not like 100% slacking off, but obviously like if I'm like eating like a sandwich while I'm working on it, like obviously like that'll like affect one thing, but you know it's not like I'm slaving away for 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
as like a rough estimate of like how much time it took, whether it was even just like brainstorming conception, because obviously like a brainstorming session doesn't necessarily mean putting a ton on the page, you know. So it's like that's still like a part of the process. So I definitely know what you mean. Like that takes like 2 hours on average.
I mean, look, even if I'm at work, if I'm physically at a 9 to 5 job, I'm still on the clock when I'm taking shits. So I don't. I mean, if you want to go have a snack or something,
True.
fuck it, I'll
yeah,
take
no,
that hit.
I've never had like a conflict on that. So that's a good analogy, though. Like, I definitely agree with that.
It's true. No, I just wanted to know, like, just for my personal sake, like, what exactly are you doing? I think it's interesting that, and I think that's the right way to do it. That you do it based on wage, and then obviously as you keep going, right? Like, if some big name who had some degree or whatever went into working to McDonald's, I don't know how exactly it works for that type of thing, but I know that at certain places where you go, obviously your level of education is equal to how much you are paid, right? So there's some sort of relevance to that. So like someone who might not have the education would be paid minimum wage, but as they keep going, or as they do have an education, maybe they get the raise, they get this, or they're supposed to be getting this pay. So I think that sort of goes with art as well. Like when you first start versus when your art starts hitting more and doing better as well. You should be raising your prices. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and it helps too because like whenever I work for someone, like they always talk about it, whether like a big YouTuber or a small YouTuber, they always tell their friends like, "Yo, check out this shit I got." You know, like it's always like word of mouth is probably like one of the biggest like pieces of value, if that makes sense. Because obviously in like this case, like when I started doing work for you and like I would like try to like hop in someone else's DMs who's also like a bigger name, they'll be like, "Oh, I saw that shit you did for Joey. Like, okay, like what are we gonna work on?" You know, it's like sometimes like I'll just skip over that line of like other artists like trying to like wait for a chance just because like I have like not like a testimony, like the art itself is kind of a testimony, seeing like the quality and like how much it's done on their channel and whatnot.
Yeah,
like it can definitely like add a piece of ethos or credibility. So like those types of big opportunities are crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of like how I actually found out about you, Moet had some fire thumbnails back in the day. And like when he was actually putting them up and he was getting them up consistently, I was like, "Hey, dude, who did your work?" And he was like, "Grant, the Crypt Magnet." I was like, "Oh, I know him. That's awesome." And I was like, "How much did he cost?" And it was like, $5. What to do this? Hold up. So immediately, and to be honest, I might be part of the reason why Moe can't afford
that
$5.
That $5 was all he could afford to keep his channel afloat. Ever since then, has been dirty.
But word of mouth is a huge thing, right? And obviously, your art speaks for itself. We're going back to what Key was talking about. When I see a thumbnail that's clean, I'm gonna click on the video, right? When effort was put into it. So I was like, "Wow, these thumbnails are great." And I'm putting up this video tomorrow. Let me see if I can talk to this guy. Hey, can you make this thumbnail for tomorrow, right now? And you were like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay. How much is it? $5." Like I can't like this is not it's not an exaggeration. The first few thumbnails from Grant cost $5. Then a little bit after a month and a half went by, 10. Then they started going, higher, depending on how much I was asking and how much time I was at. Because I would literally go when I go to Grant, it's when I need something immediately. Right. Like I say, "Hey, I have this thing going out right now. Hey, this podcast is coming out tomorrow. Can you do this for me now?" And obviously, I'm paying him for his work. Even hit him up at 3:00 in the morning. "Hey, I need this at 4:00 in the morning. Can you do it for me?"
I'm just trying to get you to grandfather that prices back in for my boy Moet. You know what I mean? Hard times.
It's interesting that you bring that up though, Joey, because like I think one thing that artists don't realize is another like factor to how much they can price or value themselves at is how like fast and efficient they can get the work done. Because like speed is a pretty like important factor, especially like for a lot of people in this community. Like no shots at you, but like a lot of the creators in general, like they're just really busy, like the bigger ones. Like they got a lot of stuff going on. They realize like, "Oh shit, I got a series going up tomorrow," or like the week after. And like the people who can get that work done quickly will get the commission and like a little bit and then some on the side. Like it's crazy. Like because for me, not only did over time, like obviously I improved like my own quality, but the processes I was doing, like I've been doing them so repetitively that they take a lot less time than they used to before. So obviously like it can cut costs a little bit. Like you can like save a little bit of time, work on other commissions even. So it definitely like helps overall with the process on both sides to be able to like practice your craft and be able to do that like efficiently, because this goes back to the whole wage idea where you price yourself at $11 an hour. Say like, okay, you do like, I don't know, like a $50 project, but you took like, say the extreme example, 100 hours total. Like suddenly you might think, "Oh, I made $50, but at the same time, that took you $2 an hour. So you're losing a lot of that valuable time as well, because time is just as valuable as anything else.
Of course.
But yeah, that's just my advice on that one.
No, it's true. So just to let people know, I have 2 graphic artists I 100% work with, and well, I have 3. One of them is my buddy Pedro, the tactical gamer, who, if I have this huge project and I have a lot of time in advance before, I will talk to him because he is super reliable and I love his work. He actually does my current showdown thumbnail. He did that template for me a long time ago. The other is Grant, because I love Grant's work, and Grant I can get at like the last minute and say, hey, I have an idea for a video going up tomorrow, and I'm gonna do that. And obviously the other is Lady Kubu, who is just like Grant in a sense. It's like, hey, I will pull up in her stream while she's streaming doing work for other people and say, hey, Lady Kubu, I need this emote right now. And she will pull aside and actually make it, because we formed that type of, obviously not to that extreme. Like, she'll finish it. It's like, okay, once I finish this, I'm gonna do it immediately. I'm like, great. So like, I definitely think reliability and timing is a huge thing in terms of not only getting things done, but getting commissions, period. I think that's a huge thing. Because like, I know just based on reliability, I can go work with Grant if I need something. Like, if I tell Grant right now in the middle of this podcast, hey, I would like that thing that we ordered for the Lock podcast to be done by tomorrow, and Grant does it, that'd be fantastic. Like, type of thing. Like, I know Grant would do that type of thing. That wasn't me. That wasn't me telling you by tomorrow.
No, exactly. It's like, wow.
Just a heads up, we're on iTunes now.
We are on iTunes now. We are on iTunes now. So yeah, get that done by tomorrow, Grant.
Okay, I mean, a little bit extra green might just help with that speed up process, but but no, exactly. Like, that's just the example, is like having that extra like skill, or not so much skill, just having that ability to be able to get something done quickly,
efficient. Yeah,
just exactly. It just adds a little bit more opportunity, and it adds a little bit extra pay on the side too, because most people, like 9 times out of 10, or even more than that, if you say like, hey, I'm charging an extra $10 just because of the rush fee, usually they'll be like, okay, that's understandable. Like did good work in a good amount of time, and like, it's just a huge amount of opportunity as well. So
exactly. And again, it all goes back to knowing your worth as well. Like, you got to know your worth. You don't want to cheat yourself, right? And you don't want people coming back to you expecting the same thing. Obviously, because I loved your work so much, even as the prices went up, which I knew they would eventually. I was like, I'm just waiting for this boy to catch on. But you know what? I'll enjoy my $5 thumbnail. And at times Grant would be like, initially too, and this is a true story. Grant would be like, hey man, it only took me an hour, whatever you feel worth. And so initially it would be like a $5 thing, and then Grant was like, yeah, this only took me an hour, whatever you feel worth. And I give him $25 just because I was like, so I gave him 5 times what the initial thing was, and then I come back, he's like, yeah, it's $25 now.
You created this monster. I just want you to know that. Oh no, it's definitely helped a lot. Like, being able to up my prices at first, when I was like, I didn't think it was going to make that much of an impact. I didn't think I was going to gain much out of it. Like a lot of like smaller artists in this community, I felt like, damn, like if I up my prices, I'm going to lose all the people talking to me. But then I realized, like, a lot of these people, like, they still came to me, not because of like the money, but because of like the value, which is like, because a lot of these people already kind of saw me as like being like higher than that price anyway, just because of how they perceive the work to be. So it's like, the one thing I gotta say for like a lot of like the younger graphic designers or the smaller ones is like, don't be afraid to up your prices, because like just upping it gradually is enough to kind of put your feelers out there. And if you still get the same amount of commissions for like $10 extra, then hey, go for it. That's like a sandwich or something right there,
Yeah, no, it's 100% true.
After you establish some rapport with the person you're working with, I mean, long as they're
as long as they're willing to still do it as well, like it makes sense. Same thing. Like my buddy Pedro, he's done graphics work for big companies, right? So obviously, because he has worked with these big companies, his value is higher. It's the same thing with you, because you've worked with certain people. Your value does go up. That's like it. People want you more. It's like if I get a plastic bag at, let's just say Sephora, versus like a plastic bag at the grocery store. The plastic bag at the grocery store is free, but it might cost me $2 to get it at Sephora just
Sephora.
because it's Sephora. It's exactly
Sephora wasn't the
Maybe.
right
No,
the right
that's good.
example here.
It wasn't the right example. I should have said a purse.
97% male audience, by the way.
I see what you mean though. Like you could put, like, no, you could put the same clothes though in the same bag, like in a Target bag or a Sephora bag, and people would think that the clothes in the Sephora bag, like they think that, oh wow, these are such fine
That's
quality.
bougie.
Like, wow, where'd you get that?
Look at this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I can tell that I have a 97% because Grant said Sephora bag when Sephora is a makeup store. So I should have said a different example myself.
I don't know, man. Like,
I should have said Kate Spade or like something where it actually is a bag at work.
Gucci or something. I don't know these brands. Come on now.
But yeah, it's the thing. It depends. Know your worth. Know what you're based on. And I think again, going back like the whole paid and exposure thing. If you know your worth, and if it actually is, if you actually take a look at it and look just a little bit at it, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this might actually be beneficial for me in the long run. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're gonna do something for free, don't be upset if you don't get paid, type of thing too, right? Like I'm doing this for free. I shouldn't expect money out of it, type of thing. But at the same time, if someone's like approaching you in a way where it's almost it's an insult to you, like the whole GBA
condescending.
thing. Yeah, it's yeah, exactly, exactly.
Have you ever been on the subreddit? What's it called? Begging choosers.
Choosing
Yeah,
beggars.
sure.
I've been on that once, and that's because somebody actually, like the whole GBA thing, someone actually posted it on.
Oh, your situation was posted.
Yeah, I was like, I've been on there and been on there. So yeah, no, it's interesting.
Common argument I see on there is like, hey, yes, this is going to take you a couple hours. Can't you just do the thing? And the best reply I see to that is like, no, this is going to take me a couple hours plus several years of experience. So my price is not going to waver. I think that's a good argument for that. Like, yeah, okay, it'll take me a few hours, but if you put the same few hours in to do it yourself, you wouldn't get even close to the same result. So
exactly, like there's just so many factors that go into value, and I think the issue is with some of these content creators who don't fully understand, like they just don't have a good grasp on how much time something takes or how much time led up to that to being able to be capable of doing something in a short amount of time like that. I think that's like just one of the biggest factors.
I agree. No, I agree completely. And it's interesting too because for what's it called? For art, people don't like the whole paid and exposure thing. But like if someone went into my email and was like, hey, I want to pay you to expose this product to like Red Bull, for instance. I want to pay you to drink this can and to show it on screen. Like they're being paid.
Oh, you're getting paid for exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I'm being paid for exposure, and their hope is that they'll be paid back in that exposure, right? Like that's the whole thing. They'll hope that, okay, because I have this amount of audience and this video is hitting this amount of views, they will be paid back because of it, right? So while paid exposure definitely has like negative connotations coming with it, there's a lot of positive and business stuff that definitely works with it.
I think it just needs to be like fully understood, because I think 99% of the people who like bring up exposure as that bargaining chip, I don't think they fully understand like what that means, like to the core of like what they have to gain out of it or what the artist has to gain out of it in like that hypothetical. Like I just think like there's just too many people who see the word get thrown around and they think like, oh, that's just a money word. Like I can say that as if it's like a credit card, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed this discussion. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, especially after like I genuinely laugh when I see those things being tweeted. Just pay the people you work with.
Please.
Yeah.
GBA.
This one's at you, bros. Been interesting.
Your sir. Gauntlet's been thrown down. He's gonna pick it up.
Don't want to be too direct now, GBA. But no, I think it's just definitely been like an interesting conversation, and like bringing up that like playing devil's advocate basically for like what it would be like if like being paid for exposure was like a valid option. So I definitely like enjoyed like listening to that type of conversation, giving back to that feedback. It was just, I don't know, just an interesting topic. I don't think people really think about, because not really people want to play devil's advocate to something like that, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And it's been a pleasure having you on, Grant. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to shout out that you're doing, or any projects you have coming up, or anything like writing our thing on the lock that you'd like to talk about going forward, or whatever, bro?
Honestly, man, I think I'm good. I mean, for any viewers at home, whether you're just a regular audience member or do graphic design yourself, I mean, if you want to drop a follow on the Twitter, by all means. I'm not gonna despise you if you do. That's pretty much.
What's the
all
Twitter
I can
name, bro?
say.
What's the Twitter, man? Let him know.
highvelocityboy. So pretty much sounds like how it's spelled. So everything's good there.
Yeah, it's I was about to spell it completely wrong for them, but the link will be down below.
No, yeah, if anyone can support that, that would just be a huge impact to me. Just being able to like make work for even Joey or other people in general. Like it just makes a huge difference.
Right. That shout out's paying you for this episode, by the way.
Yep, and I am getting absolutely nothing for being on here, so oh man. But yeah, thank you for having me on here though. Like it's definitely been a blast. Definitely been like a long time coming. Like I don't think we've actually like spoken in person before.
Yeah, I was telling
knowing for how many years?
Yeah, I've known Grant for so long. I've never been in a call with him, so I was like, this will be interesting.
I was like, I don't know what to think going into it, but then after like 30 minutes, I'm like, yeah, I guess he's kind of cool. You know?
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate that.
No, it's been fun though. It's been good talking to you and everyone else.
I generally enjoyed the conversation. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed episode 5 of The Lock. If you, of course, are not listening to this on Anchor, I do encourage you guys go over there, because it really does help us out. We're available on iTunes now as well, which you can get on Anchor. All those links are down below. And that stuff really does help us grow as well. So check out my boy Grant. Check out Key, of course. Check out Chimp. We'll see you guys. Goodbye, everybody.
Please rate it 5 stars on iTunes.